two, one. Good day, Facebook and YouTube. It's Duran, also known as Christian Duran on YouTube. Today, I have a special guest with me. He is, I'm going to say, this is Dexture, you guys. He and I, we are, I'm just going to say this. We have had great civilized disagreements. Let's just say that, especially when it comes to politics, systematic racism. What else? Implicit bias. Is America, a racist country? Is Donald Trump racist? We have kind of basically debated on these things, and so I just want to give him a hand for actually being the first person to disagree with me to come on. He's the first person to actually accept the invitation to come on and to basically espouse his beliefs. I have asked his perspective, and you guys, this was just more spur in the moment. I was like, Dex, I need you on the show. He was like, I'm game. You get what I'm saying? So I've known his brother for a little bit over a year. You've been on my Facebook for a little bit over a year.
Yeah, about that.
You guys, he's so civil. So Dex, when it comes to the political spectrum, how would you identify yourself when it comes to the political spectrum?
I call myself independent left-leaning. So not centrist, but slightly left of center.
Gotcha. Now, how old are you? And then also, let's just say, don't give your exact location, but about your whereabouts.
26 years old, and I live in South Texas.
You're 26? Ay. So my first impression, because when I had talked to Dex, I thought Dex was like from Cali, but he's not. He looks like a Cali boy, but he's not. So he's down in Texas. I was down in San Antonio. I was actually thinking about connecting with Dex when I was in San Antonio. But I mean, I just had so much running to do. But Dex, I just want to say, man, welcome to the show. Such a short notice. And I know these are going to be controversial topics we're going to discuss since we're on both sides of the spectrum. But hey, I do respect you as a person, even though I may disagree with you. Still, I already know I don't have to say this to you, but I just want everyone else to know that there's no love lost. Period. So Dex, I want you to start, okay? And so let's just go to the meat and potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe, the first question, America is a racist country?
No, I do not believe America is a racist country. May I expand?
Yes, please.
So I do believe that the country has a history of racism that was passed, embedded into the laws and therefore the fabric of the country, because it's more difficult now because the laws don't directly support racism. But 50 years ago, when my mom was one of the first students to go to a school desegregated in her neighborhood, things were a lot more difficult back then, because before that they were like, oh, you can't go to this school, and the law supported it. So if she were to walk into a PWI, primarily white institution, she would be turned around and walk right back out the door.
Gotcha. Then Dexter, could you do me a favor? Because I know you're drinking coffee. That's coffee, right?
Oh, no, it's water.
Oh my goodness, you lost some points.
I don't drink caffeine.
Could you move your mouth? I mean your mouthpiece. Could you move it up a little bit more? Yeah, good.
Okay.
Good. Because it kept rubbing against. I think it was rubbing against.
Okay.
There you go. Cool.
Better?
Okay. So you don't believe that America is a racist country, and I agree with you. There was a point in time where America was completely racist, right? It was systematically racist. I mean, it was just racist, period. But so what's the difference when it concerning race, okay, in America today and then in the past? What's one of the differences?
Well, one of the differences is that in the past, it was more direct racism. Like I said, mom would have been turned around and walked right back out the door. An issue that we're dealing with today are the ramifications of those racist institutions in the past. Let's use an example: redlining. Super simple. I believe it was prior to the 60s. Black people, brown people, people of certain People of certain national origins could not own property in certain areas. So let's say there's a very industrious neighborhood with access to infrastructure, access to good schools, all that good stuff. And you had to be of a certain national origin to live in this neighborhood. So if you weren't of that national origin, you were pushed away and away from these opportunities, away from the infrastructure. And these are 30-year notes that you're locked into. And even in Texas, because I'm a recently licensed real estate agent in Texas, in the actual deeds of these properties, deed restrictions, you can't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a certain amount of roofs. You could not sell to a mulatto person or a Negro or someone of Hispanic or Italian descent. Things like that were actually inside of the deeds. So when redlining became illegal, these people still lived in these places. There wasn't a national campaign of, hey, everyone sell your houses, move where you need to, because the property values in these industrious places are held up, but the property value in these less, these less desirable places would have been held down to a certain extent. So it's not like it was a light switch that flipped and everybody had the means to just relocate themselves. So you have things like that where people had been iced out from certain opportunities that we're still dealing with today. And then that kind of leans into gentrification, and that gets into a whole different thing.
Well, so let's if you can expound on that a little bit more, unpack that a little bit more, because you said the ramifications.
Yes.
And so basically, just okay,
Mhm.
just to let you know that I'm being fully attentive when I'm listening to you, right? So I'm just being reciprocal. Basically, what I'm getting from what you have said, because of redlining, that minorities, let's just say that, right? To refer to the group in particular, minorities, they had to live in a certain area. The property value for living in that certain area would never go up in comparison to outside of that area, correct?
Correct. In a general.
Therefore, they're stuck in that area. But even though it was outlawed, they were still stuck in that area. And so now they're still dealing with the ramifications of that to date, correct?
Correct. And certain
Okay.
people obviously have been able to rise above that, get certain opportunities, and be able to leave those situations. But the vast majority of people are not able to.
Okay, gotcha. And so that's one of the examples. And I'm gonna say I agree with you. I would say about 90%. The part where it's the well, I agree with you 90% that the red line happened. But the thing is, though, do you remember when it actually became illegal?
I believe it would have been 64 or 68.
Okay. And so the reason why I say 90%, I agree with you because it did exist. But the 10% where I'm just like, okay, it's that time frame from the 60s to now. And you did say, you hit the nail on the head, a lot of people have actually basically managed to get out of that, to rise above it. So that's a small, okay, it's an issue, right? But it's a small issue. But I believe that I believe it's at a point now where it's easily rectifiable, given the subjective efforts, not something that's more systematic approach. If you understand what I'm saying, or do you want me to unpack what I mean by that?
Right. I sort of get it now that let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm taking that you're from your perspective that we don't live in the 60s anymore. There's much more opportunities for people, more universal opportunities that you don't necessarily have to be in a specific place to have that opportunity.
Correct. Because it's subjective effort. So I believe there's effort inequality in America that devastates people instead of this overall inequality all across the board. I believe it's fully subjective with your effort. Now, also too, I like that. I actually like the part that you actually clarified and you said that no, America isn't racist. So since you said that, I don't even know if we should jump into systematic racism then.
Oh yeah, we definitely can, because whenever my perspective on racism is that it has to be, well, there's intentional racism, and then there are things that affect people in a racist way. So there are certain things like the 94 crime bill. I don't believe that it was a racist bill, but it did inadvertently affect a lot of black and brown people more negatively than their white counterparts with the drug production and the drug charges and the things like that, which kind of feeds more into the issue. So you have the housing issue and the opportunity issue. Then you have the declassified information of the United States government, using cocaine, bringing it to
Yeah.
America to
Yeah.
fund overseas operations, placing it in these places where you already had disenfranchised people, and disenfranchised people are statistically more likely to commit crimes and things like that. Um, Placing this in front of them and then charging, having more harsh sentences for these crimes, for the drugs that were put there by the United States government. So the bill itself wasn't racist, but that coupled with the overseas operations and the planning of the drugs and all of that had racist outcomes on a specific group of people.
Okay.
Had, mm-hmm.
Okay. No. I agree. Okay. To a certain extent, and understand fully where you are coming from. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I have to say that it was fully a racist bill, given his monologue on the Senate floor. Mm-hmm. And how he actually referred to African Americans. He basically called us super predators, kind of almost the same terminology that Hillary Clinton used, at one point in time, right? Mm-hmm. And he basically said that they're predators. And he wasn't referring to Caucasians or anything like that. Joe Biden was talking about blacks indirectly, but we know. But so here's the thing, right? Let's okay. I don't want to be speculative, right? I always just say let's examine the facts. The facts is we know he was talking about blacks. Do you agree? The 94 crime bill.
I'd have to revisit it. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen that monologue in about 6 years.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
It's still fresh in here, right? Mm-hmm. The 94 crime bill. But I like that you admitted that, it disproportionately impacted the black community. And you also said that there were laws where they were way more harsher on the blacks. Mm-hmm. Therefore,
all right. I was just gonna clarify for the audience, because we know what we're talking about, but I forget there's other people watching. So in the 94 crime bill, there was the disparity between crack cocaine mandatory minimums and cocaine mandatory minimums. So the equivalent of having 1 gram of crack cocaine carried the same sentence of, I believe it was 100 grams of powdered cocaine.
Yes, it was.
And for the people that don't know, they're basically the same drug. Crack is made using cocaine and baking soda and a little more chemistry.
Correct.
Basically the same drug for the most part.
Exactly. So since it did, I believe that the bill was targeted specifically towards African Americans. Given his monologue on the Senate floor, and then also disproportionately the incarceration rates, but also the punishment that was attached to it. I'm with you. I'm with you on that, but where I just disagree, you said that it wasn't intentionally or directly racist. I say it was, because considering his track record, this is Joe Biden who we're talking about. So we're just examining the facts, right? So agree to disagree on that part. Now, is there another part where you believe that America is systematically racist? Is there any other part of America to date that you believe that systematic racism exists in America?
Probably not. I'd have to think more to come up with a federal example, but obviously there's local examples with voter admitted convicted voter suppression, things like that.
Can you unpack it for me?
Mm-hmm. I believe it was out of Virginia where there was the voter ID laws in Virginia. I believe it was it happened within the past 6 years or so, where they had made the ID laws very strict. Like if something was slightly misspelled from your ID and onto the ballot and vice versa, that you wouldn't be able to vote. And I'm from Texas. I don't need an ID to vote. I can go in and just vote. They ask me who I am. If I have my voter ID card, which is this little piece of paper, basically, if I have that, I can vote, no photo ID required, and have in the past. So you have that, and the offices where you could get these IDs were shut down in low income areas and available in higher income areas. Same thing with polling places. They were removed from these low income areas and kind of relocated to high income areas. So the low income people who generally vote Democrat had a much harder time voting in those elections. I have to look it up to get the exact details. I
Okay,
don't know if
gotcha.
you're looking it up right now.
Gotcha. And yeah, I can't even, I can't even push back on that
Mhm.
because I don't know any of the details on that one. So I'm not going to sit up here and become a pseudo intellectual and start to espouse some things I'm not even sure about.
Right. And so
Which,
everyone watching, just Google Virginia voter suppression. It'll pop up
gotcha,
for the
gotcha.
past 5-6 years.
I like that you actually said overall no, that
Mhm.
you do not believe that America is systematically racist. And we had this discussion before. The reason why I told you that why I believe America isn't systematically racist is because those laws that were actually put in place have been abolished. And I believe because of when they were abolished, the time in between to date now, I believe that healing has basically taken place.
Mhm.
But yet, then again, I believe in the subjective effort for your own reconciliation or resolving your own, or just say reconciling your own historical disdain correctly, right?
Right. And I want to push
Yeah.
back. I want to push back a little bit. And
Yeah.
I understand, we're masters of our own destiny. And the one thing where I want to push back is that it's my belief that if you have federal or state sponsored oppression, state sponsored, racist policies, things that systematically push people down, then there needs to be on the other side of the coin things set up to systemically raise the people that have been previously pushed down. Because yes, we do have more opportunity now, and since the invention of the internet, everybody's completely interconnected, but you still have the period of the 70s, 80s, 90s where information wasn't as abundant as it was now. So my grandmother, who dealt with this previously, was raising my mother, who raised me, in a world where there wasn't the access to information. She had to buy a house in a certain area, couldn't go to certain places, couldn't do certain things. And then when those laws were abolished, yes, it wasn't illegal for her to seek those things out, but the process of trying to raise children and live a happy life in America, but at the same time go out and seek this information, it's kind of like a crapshoot because you don't know where to go. You don't know if you need to make a left at the fork in the road or right at the fork in the road, and what's going to lead to opportunity and what might lead to more disparity. And like I said, there were some people that were able to make it out, and then once the internet came about, it became easier. But still, in the past, the lack of information that was available publicly was also another thing that once the laws were abolished, was still kind of a hindrance in getting forward.
So there's some legitimacy to your argument, right?
Mhm.
And so let's focus on the part where I just say it's legitimate. Okay, the part that
Mhm.
is fully legitimate to me is that yes, I believe some people, the people who are actually basically the victims of systematic oppression, right? I
Mhm.
believe they actually did suffer from systematic oppression because it was real at a point in time in America. We agree upon that. Now, that's the legitimate part. Now, here's the part where it becomes more convoluted, right?
Mhm.
Given the fact that systematic racism did exist, what I'm getting from you, because I want to make sure I'm not misinterpreting you,
Mhm.
basically just to sum it up, right?
Mhm.
Because government caused the problem, government should fix the problem
Or help, because
or help
even
to
though
fix the
even
problem.
though the laws existed, you didn't have to sell crack. Even though the laws
Correct.
existed, you didn't have to. Well, it's kind of hard with redlining, but you could have bought a house closer to the rim or somewhere where there weren't the same deed restrictions. There were ways around it, but ultimately the government was kind of pigeonholing through this thing and this thing and that thing, pigeonholing people into that system. So I don't believe that it's 100% on the government to fix it, but there should be help.
Right. Okay. Got you. So you saying the government needs to basically take accountability for its role, And then also you believe in the person accountability of the victim too of systematic racism.
Correct. And that's where the left of center comes in, because there are the people that it's like,
got you.
Yeah.
So Dexter, as now here's the part where my conservatism kicks in, right? Mm-hmm. Hasn't the government done enough? Here's the thing. Government intervention, I believe, makes everything progressively worse when you actually look at the track record of government intervention. Mm-hmm. Civil matters, just say all across the board, civil, federal, I mean, whatever it may be. I mean, when you look at the government getting involved, slavery. When you look at the government getting involved, massive slaughter. You look at the government getting involved, a massive racial injustices all across the country, right? So I don't believe in the government for anything as a solution. I believe that the government should definitely protect your rights, and that's it, and stay in your damn place, right? That's as far as I am concerned, and leave it up to the individual and their community to correct the wrongs, not the government. I believe to keep government out of your issues as much as possible, but have them to protect your citizens and their interest. Which, I mean, hey, that's basically the basis of a constitutional republic. I want to make sure that your rights are not infringed upon, don't infringe upon my rights. Keep government out of my business and let me prosper. Freedom and equality, right? Mm-hmm. Now go ahead next.
That I would agree with that if all communities were created equal. I live in a major city. So because of tax dollars from this major city, there are programs for the homeless, minority programs, things like that for Get Ahead. It wasn't a minority grant, but I used a grant that was available in my city to buy this house, where if you live in rural America, you don't have that same infrastructure that can help you get ahead in these programs that are available to someone that lives in the city like me. And again, you can move to the city, but if you live in a rural area where opportunities are low, pay is low, skilled labor is low. So if you are raised in that environment and you turn 18, it's like, well, I don't have any skills. There's nowhere for me to get skills. My parents didn't save enough money for me to get these skills. Again, you have to be thrust into the world and kind of figure it out yourself. And again, you can succeed at that and you can fail at that. So because not all communities are created equal, I believe that there should be some type of government program or movement or something like that in order to kind of counteract what happened. And speaking to the past, the America revolted against Britain and got its own independence.
So look at Britain as the government.
Well, yeah. So Britain was the government in that situation, but America was still kind of doing its own thing and based our constitution and our government off the one that they just broke out of. And then when Britain ended slavery before America did, they were like, everybody was like, hey, America, why don't you end slavery? And there was like, but this free labor though. But that gets more into some more nuanced stuff. But
no, that's true. I mean, yeah, those nuances, but that's true. Everything you just said is actually factually true. Mm-hmm. Besides the Constitution part being drafted or derived from Britain.
Oh, it was just the way the government is set up and having having things like that were kind of similar, like your Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent, all that stuff, basic rights, courts, things, just the whole governmental setup.
Okay, that part. Yeah, got you. So here's the thing, Dex. I do believe in giving people a hand, but not a crutch. Right? Mm-hmm. Like the welfare state. We take the welfare state, for instance. This is complete government intervention, right? So you take 1933, Theodore Roosevelt, basically, Democrat, have to point that out. Democrat signs this in, right? Mm-hmm. From 1933 to 1939, this is where blacks basically lost their incentive to strive, mm-hmm. because the welfare, the New Deal, was introduced. Then all of a sudden, blacks became complacent, dependent upon this handout. Not all, but majority. And so therefore, since the ideology was given over to, okay, well, we're gonna soften the blow. We're gonna make it a lot lighter for you. It turned out to be an Achilles heel, because when you actually look at from 1933 to now, the black community, I mean, because of this New Deal, okay, the ramifications of it, fatherless homes, people completely depended upon the government for everything. And this is what I'm talking about with government intervention. It doesn't help. It never ever has. When you look at history, especially in America, it has never ever made anything better for anyone. Now, Dex, to actually put this more in perspective and to draw it in to why I am a conservative is because even before 1933, there was even way more harsh racism, systematic racism. It was, dude, it was so nasty. You know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet those blacks still thrived. They were still successful. They were still intelligent. The family unit was together. They lived in great communities with whites, and they were heavily educated. And a lot of them were, all of them were conservative, and they were congressmen. So when you look at the black community before 1933, when the New Deal was introduced, it completely produced a different community. And so when you look at that historically, why do you think the black community before 1933, before the New Deal, they were self-sufficient, they were intelligent, the father was in a home, the family unit was together, they were business owners and congressmen, then all of a sudden it shifted after the brand New Deal? Why do you think that happened?
Well, I think the point you're trying to make is a little misleading, because we do still have black Congress people, we do still have black business owners, and black business ownership has steadily gone up.
Mm-hmm.
And between 1933 and the 1970s was still a very difficult time, because the welfare system, when it first came about, was different from the way that it is now. The way it is now, there are limits on how much you can receive. There's a limit on the time that it can be received, and the parameters surrounding it to get the assistance have also changed. Now, back in the 1930s, segregation was still in full effect. So if you were black, you had to live in a black community, you had to go to a black doctor, had to go to a black grocer, had to do all these things. Now, after desegregation, this is where, we live in a desegregated society. It's better for everyone. But in certain instances, when desegregation happened, you now could go to a white grocery store that might have better prices, because the mom and pop down the road may have been open for 10 years, but the big grocer could have been open for 15, 20 years, have better ties, get better prices, have better products. So now you have options, and that's where the free market comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And the free market actually kind of helped disincentivize people from shopping in black areas and shopping in white areas, because you had blacks going to white areas to shop now, but white people didn't really have an incentive to go to black areas and shop after desegregation. So I think it's a multifaceted issue, like everything is.
Correct.
When the welfare came about, there were also other things going on that allowed it to to be an okay system. And then as time progressed, the fabric of the country shifted, and now that you had more access to do things, more access for opportunities, then sometimes give more access to make your own mistakes and then lead yourself down a path that you wouldn't necessarily want to go down.
So why do you think the black community has crumbled ever since the brand New Deal was implemented?
I don't believe that it's crumbled. That's my genuine belief. I don't believe that it's crumbled. I believe that there have always been poor people. There have always been more affluent people. And as the population of the country grows, and as these situations are amplified more, and as we have access to see these different situations, it's kind of like, before the internet, there were still ghettos.
Correct.
After the internet, oh, there's a ghetto here, there's a ghetto here, there's a ghetto here. And man, there's a lot of black people in these ghettos. Why are all these black people in ghettos? Are all black people in ghettos? And so this was how things were presented once we now started to have access to information. Because these things always existed. It's just that people weren't always aware. And so you have these people that were thrust into these positions, and now you have other people seeing them thrust into these positions, and then they start to question, oh, is it their fault? Is it somebody else's fault? Why don't they change it? And that kind of breeds a little bit of animosity and a little bit of a jaded mindset in some individuals. But it is my belief that the black people as a whole, the black community, has not crumbled.
Okay, so yeah, let me push back on that, and then also going back into use that into a segue, okay? Just to backpedal just a little bit, because you had said that you think it was slightly misleading about the brand new deal being implemented, and then welfare being our Achilles heel, okay, that has basically decimated the black community. The reason why I say it has decimated the black community, because it has stripped the black community of accountability. When you know you can count on a check that's going to come to you from the government, then also with that, you had to change your ideological stance. Remember, blacks voted 100% Republican. They were 100% conservative before 1933. So they had to shift their mind setting over to Democrat. Now, you know the history of the Democrat Party. It's irrefutable, right? And so you alluded to the ghettos. What I'm saying is before 1933, you had black and whites living in the same neighborhoods, going to the same businesses, working side by side, actually fighting side by side as well, too, because they were being killed by Democrats, KKK. So the thing is, though, is that when you can even take Tulsa, okay, you can take Black Wall Street, Tulsa, right? That was one of the communities. Blacks and whites lived together, right? There were black conservatives and there were white conservatives in that place.
So white people were allowed to live in black communities, but the reason why Black Wall Street was able to exist was because black people were not allowed to live in Metro Tulsa, in the main heart of the area. They were not allowed to live there. So when they weren't allowed to live there, they built that community up. And whites could always go where blacks could go, but blacks could not go where whites could go. There may have been
No. Go ahead.
Oh, there may have been adjacent communities, and if there were some type of desegregated communities, it would be whites living in black areas. But yes, blacks were pushed out of the Metro Tulsa area, and that's why Black Wall Street was a thing in general, because they didn't have the option to go shop at white institutions.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing, right? I'm going to push back on you again, because now not South, remember, because you had the segregated South, right? But now, you know, Tulsa is kind of like, not really South, but, you know, you're getting real close to that, right? But all the way up, I mean, you had so many towns that were mixed. But even in Florida, okay, even in Florida, you had tons of blacks that were living together in great communities, even in Florida. But the point is this, though, Dex, is that before 1933, though, they dealt with true harsh racism, systematic oppression. They dealt with true adversity, right? The ugly face of racism, and yet they still thrived, and they kept the family unit together because they had self-preservation, accountability intact, and they were just motivated more. We can't say that the black community hasn't crumbled. Yes, it has. When you do a compare and contrast, right? From 1930, right, the black family, how the black male dressed today. That's a prime example. That's the epitome of what I'm talking about. Now, that's not the overall imagery of blacks. I know that, not each and every individual black. But when you think about how blacks dress today, you and I have to be honest here. It's not the best look, because normally what comes to your mind are the sagging pants, boxers showing, and etc. But that's just a contrast of the blacks before and then the blacks after welfare has been implemented. And then also the ghettos, man. These ghettos have always existed. True. I agree with that. They always existed for the Irish. They were around for the Jews and etc. But those Irish, those Jews, who else? The Italians, all of them managed to excel out of it. The blacks have remained in it, and we have to. Oh my goodness, I can't stand it. And the black community has remained in it. And so I do have to say that the black community has crumbled, because before the blacks were going up. Now it seems like a lot of blacks just want to stay here.
Mm.
Yeah, no, but go ahead.
Okay. And to your point about the Jewish people, the Irish people, and the Irish people, yes, those ghettos did exist, but at a certain point, Jewish people, Irish people, Italian people used to not be considered white.
Correct.
But before desegregation, the laws changed to where all three of those groups were then considered white.
Correct.
And they had the placeholder of white above colored, things like that. We know that.
I agree.
To go back a little bit to when you were addressing interracial communities, things like that, you didn't see a whole lot of that because interracial marriage itself didn't become legal on a federal level until like 1972, which was crazy. And that was actually one of the reasons why I'm just making like a little non sequitur. Mine's going crazy with this. That's the reason why one of my grandma's sisters had to move to Seattle because she married a white man, and I didn't know that they couldn't be here to do that. Also, with you when you were talking about the political makeup and the history of the Democrat Party, I believe moreover than anything that politics is more geographical. Because if you turn it into a North versus South thing versus a Republican versus Democrat thing, there's a reason why.
You better not say there was a switch, Dex. Better not say there was a switch.
No. I'm not gonna say there's a switch. Okay. I'm just gonna make a little bit of an explanation. There's a reason why Southern Democrats were not considered progressive, but the Republican Party was considered the party of progression, the party of change. And then, and now you see that the southern states tend to vote a little rojo, a little red. Now the South is considered the Republican Party, which is now the party of conservatism, while the Democrat Party now pushes for progression, not always in the best fields, but but now pushes for progression.
Ooh, you walking that tightrope.
Yeah, I am. Oh, I am. I know the words. I know what the left echo chambers sound like. I know what the right echo chambers sound like. So I try to stay away from a lot of that language and just kind of explain the way things used to be and the way things are now. Because that's basically the conversation we're having.
Correct.
The way things used to be in the past and the way things are now. And as far as what is it? As far as political leanings and political standings, I just see them as more geographical. I just see them more as geographical issues, because in the South we pride ourselves on low income tax, things of that nature. Most things are funded by property taxes, which kind of incentivizes certain ownership for tax cuts and certain things. But we're not talking about that. Let me see. Oh yeah, when you're talking about the image of Black people, I wouldn't just
more.
Huh?
But so let me reiterate that, because I want to keep you, because I love the direction you're going. You stand on track, and what I meant by that was the family structure, the culture, the shift in the ideology, and what it produced. Yeah, go ahead, Dex.
So my pushback on that. Oh, my dog came in. My pushback on that is that with everything that happened, with the laws that were in place to kind of disincentivize Black people from living in certain areas, when the welfare was introduced, you had to be in certain places to get these things. They were more geographically tied. When Section 8 first came about, you had to be in a certain area to get Section 8. Now, anybody that owns a rental, you can use Section 8 and go anywhere with that. But as far as the breakdown of the Black family fatherless homes, that has to do somewhat with the laws that were instituted around crack cocaine and things like that, because it was more, because even through the 40s, 50s, and 60s, you still had healthy Black families. But people think desegregation was the reason for all that. But a lot of it is the price of freedom. When you have more options, you have more options to not make the best decision for yourself. Because people can say when slavery was still in, there was a 0% Black unemployment rate. But you have the freedom to leave that. Not everyone became a sharecropper, but you had the freedom to leave that. Desegregation, you now had the freedom to go to these other places, which with the free market caused some black businesses to have to shut down because now had more freedom of choice. And now, as time goes on, I think we're just going to see more of that across the board, because we have, there have always been trans people, but more outward trans people, more outward gay people who have always existed. But now everyone has the freedom to make every decision that they want to make. And there are some people who just want to make decisions for the experience.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying,
Mhm.
but what I'm basically trying to get to the crux is why do you think the black community has remained stagnant, even though you did offer I mean this part of the truth about the Italian, Jew, and Irish, being considered white. That's part of it, but I mean they actually pulled itself up by their bootstraps. But why do you think the black community has remained stagnant though in the inner cities?
So
Then also to let me give you a little bit more context too.
Mhm.
So when you take like Chicago,
Mhm.
okay, you take Detroit.
Mhm.
I mean, some parts of Cali. I mean, you had like from 80 years straight,
Mhm.
same ghettos.
So with Detroit and Chicago and certain parts of California, it's where two things kind of come to me. And this is my opinion. It's all
Mhm.
it's all just opinion. Nobody knows 100% for sure why people make the decisions that they make. It's where we started to get this freedom coupled with a lot of what was going on legally, because the places where um, crack cocaine offenses were more harshly sought after and prosecuted were these major cities: New York, Detroit, Chicago, California. And what saves kind of California and New York a lot is the real estate. Both of these
Correct.
places are very close to the water. Places near water are always more
High property
desirable.
tax.
hmm Are always, and they both got income tax. Ugh. These places have always been more desirable to live in. So that's why in places like Detroit and Chicago, you have what looks like just gang run neighborhoods. But in California and New York, you still have gangs, but you have affluent people coming to live here regardless. And so their money from the income tax and from the property taxes was able to keep those two cities afloat somewhat, and good government spending, all that stuff. But that comes and goes. There's ebb and flow to that. But just as a whole, um, there's more of a basis for things to be held to a higher standard. Whereas Detroit and Chicago, they're not as desirable places to live. It's high up north. It's very cold. Um, Things of that nature, that where these gangs exist, where these laws were implemented, where people basically fighting for scraps at that point, and then coupled with the freedom that everyone started to gain, allowed you to be able to stay there if you wanted to, rep your hood if you wanted to. But on the opposite side, you have those people that don't want to be there. But because of these affluent people not coming there, the property values have stayed low. I've seen houses for 10 grand, 12 grand, 15 grand in these cities. So if you have a grandma that's been here for years and years and years, and a family that's been here for years and years and years, and it's not mostly gangs, it's mostly well-to-do people that want better for themselves, but crunched down into a situation where they don't have a lot of options, which is where you see the children and the youth starting to go out and participate in these gangs, because that is the culture of certain parts of that community that they have to engage in if they're trying to put food on the table, because
Gotcha.
drugs are always going to pay more than McDonald's and Burger King.
Exactly. So Dex, I'm glad you answered that the way that you did, right?
hmm
You admit that there's a problem, there's an issue, and I'm telling you what I'm drawing on the parallels, right? I believe there's cause and effect. When blacks went Democrat,
hmm
this has been their problem. That's what keeps them stagnant. Democratic policies.
hmm
Policies, because the common denominator with every city we just mentioned, every ghetto we just mentioned, it has been Democrat for decades and decades and decades upon decades. But let's shift a little bit, okay? Because I really want to pick your mind, okay? I really want to pick your brain. No, go ahead.
One point. Just want to make this one point. Most major cities in America are Democrat run. Like I think it's like 90%.
Yeah,
but not all of them have those same issues.
But I do have to tell you, okay, the ones that are predominantly democratically ran, they're not favorable.
Because I think in Texas we only have one. I think we only have one Republican mayor, maybe two. I know it's Fort Worth and maybe one other place.
Yeah, Texas is starting to shift more blue now. But you have to be honest, you're starting to see the quality is starting to go down. But that's another can of worms. So let's shift a little bit, Dex. Now let's get this. Now this is going to become a little bit more controversial. Okay,
about to get saucy.
What's your take, with you being on the other side of the spectrum from myself? Okay, what is your take on Black Lives Matter and Antifa?
Antifa, I'm not even going to address Antifa. I know almost nothing about Antifa.
Okay.
Almost nothing about Antifa. Black Lives Matter, I believe it's a necessary movement, but one of the tenets of the movement being essentially leaderless is one of the things that kind of works against it. Because if you don't work to assign your own narrative, which some people try to do, if you don't work to assign your own narrative, someone will create it for you. So that's why Black Lives Matter stories look different every single place and outlet you look, because there's no central person or group of people that's at its nucleus that are constantly on the front line creating that narrative for the movement. But I do believe that it is a necessary movement.
You believe it's a necessary movement? On what basis you believe it's a necessary movement?
Just because I believe the fight for civil rights and human rights never really ends. It just evolves and grows and changes. So whereas you have, because we just talked about policy up until this point and less about the individual person, because just because you had racist laws abolished doesn't mean that individual racist people don't exist. And that's where there's more nuance. Everything becomes more complicated, because when it's not written down in black and white, you don't know who's racist and who's not, who's out to get you, who's not. And when it's not off of a basis of skin color or the way you look, it's a lot easier to see. Oh, this person doesn't like me because I talk like this or because of my personality. But if somebody doesn't like you because of the way you look, you'll probably never know. And a thing that a lot of people kind of underestimate about racist people believe that racist people are dumb. But they're not necessarily dumb. You can have intelligent racists that know how to work in the current system to be able to do some of the things that they want to do. And that's where the movement kind of calls out almost everything that happens. And it's not all true, it's not all false. And that's where the civil rights today becomes a little more difficult in the struggle, because you're not fighting against a policy per se. You're trying to you're trying to fight against an idea or an institution or something that's not written down in black and white.
Okay. So, you know, I can't stand Black Lives Matter whatsoever.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I don't see any purpose, and they definitely are not about Black lives whatsoever. Especially when you actually read their mission statement, their original mission statement. Of course, they revised it, but anyway, that's, I do have to say, I'm pretty sure you know what a ghost predicated upon a ghost is. You know what that means, right? Especially in theory of thought.
No, actually,
so,
I've never heard that term before.
Yeah, so let me unpack it, right? So, because you said that, okay, so we agreed earlier that, okay, you said that America isn't racist. You said that you agree that America isn't systematically racist. But then what you just said too, with Black Lives Matter, is that racist people do exist.
Well, I don't think I ever said that I don't believe that systematic racism doesn't exist in the country today. I don't think I ever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought we came to a conclusion that America isn't systematically racist.
I didn't. We talked about the '94 crime bill. I said I didn't believe that
Okay,
that was specifically a racist bill.
Okay, got you.
But I do believe that systematic racism does exist in
Okay,
the country.
so this is where we get to the part where it's like when you say that racism is hidden, and so basically when you say that racism is hidden, and you said it, a lot of people think they're dumb. So what that conveys to me is that you're basically saying that there are people. If so, now I'm starting to get from you. Now you do believe in systematic racism, as you have said. So that means that these people, they're racist, they're smart, in their positions of influence to hold you down systematically. Now, the ghost predicated upon a ghost theory of thought is basically this: when you say that a person is racist, I always tell a person, if you show me irrefutable proof that this person is racist, you have my full-blown support. Let's get rid of this person. You can show me policy that's completely racist, you have my full-blown support. And so this, we're going to use this to a segue to implicit bias, because it goes along with it, right? So you show me this, you have my support. But see, here's the thing though. It's a ghost predicated upon a ghost. And so I have to ask you, Dex, you believe in systematic racism? You believe that there are people in positions of power who are completely racist, who are holding other people down. Can you tell me what their names are and what companies they work for, and then also what policies are in place that systematically oppresses people?
Right. So I never said specifically that there are racist people in powerful places there to keep us down. And this leans more into implicit bias. There are certain procedures and ways that that the government responds to certain things that may be trained a certain way into some personnel that have racist outcomes. And so something doesn't, for the government as a whole and for the systems in place, something doesn't have to be in the beginning, we're doing this to mess up black people or mess up brown people or do this to these people. But once the outcomes are apparent, once the outcomes are seen, then if nothing is done after that, then it can shift into a racist policy or a racist idea or a racist procedure. With the '94 crime bill, it didn't have to take as long as it did, and there's still people currently incarcerated under the '94 crime bill. So even though that was 26 years ago, there are people still being affected by it today.
Okay, so do you understand where I'm coming from, Dex? Because
yes.
It's like,
yes, I do.
It's theory. It's theoretical, and this is why I have a problem with it, right? Because it's theoretical. Because implicit bias is theory. Because it's called the theory of implicit bias, right? It's theoretical, and so this will become from where we say it's a ghost predicated upon a ghost. And so what I was asking you for, if you have any concrete examples of a person who, let's just say, who's racist, that may be in position of power, okay, that might be oppressing someone. Any systematic policies per se that you can basically reference to?
Yes, the recent examples, like I mentioned earlier, the Virginia cases of voter suppression that were confirmed. Other cases throughout the country of policies that were set forth. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because that's the one that I always do know off of, because I talk to a lot of people about voter suppression. Yeah, I'm trying to think, because it usually goes back to a socioeconomic standpoint where it influences poor people the most, and then black and brown people tend to be the poorest people in those areas. Oh man, yeah, I definitely have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, and so Dex, and so Dex, and that's the problem as a conservative, right? The reason, and trust me, you're not the only person who could not answer that. There's tons of people, okay, who agree with Black Lives Matter. They can't answer that question because the reason is it is a ghost predicated upon a ghost.
Well, I did answer in the case of the Virginia case of the voter suppression that was confirmed. We would have to look it up to get the names
Bingo.
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's not so. That's what I'm saying. That's not concrete, right?
No, it was fully worked through and it was confirmed. I just because we didn't have any prep time for this.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna have to. Yeah, me and you're gonna have to revisit that.
Yeah, because I don't have the.
But you don't have any other like concrete examples though of the systematic racism. A person. Oh my goodness, dude, I'm so sorry, man. Of systematic racism. But the reason why though I say that it's a ghost predicated upon the ghost is for that very reason. Is that there's no examples really that a person can give that's credible, right? Nothing you can bring to court and be like, look, here is the hardcore evidence. This person is guilty of such. So that's why we say it's a ghost predicated upon a ghost, because it's theory, it's theoretical. And a lot of people love to give something that's theoretical as much merit and credence as if it's factual. But let me say this too, also too, with Black Lives Matter. The primary reason why I can't stand them is because, man, of what's going on in this country right now. And I believe you judge a tree by the fruits it produces, right? Burning down Black communities. Prime example here in Minnesota, 400 businesses. Did you know that those 400 businesses, those were predominantly minority businesses, Dex? Blacks, I wish they would go to abortion clinics, because it's predominantly Blacks that are aborted. I wish they would go to the inner cities and they talk to Blacks and stop the Black on Black crime, because one of the highest, one of the most known ways that Blacks are murdered is Black on Black crime. And those are just the facts, right? So it's not my opinion. Those are the facts. I wish they would actually do something that truly matters. But now though, Dex, we're witnessing the destruction of American history, burning down businesses, killing innocent people, attacking police officers, assaulting whites for being white. And so just overall, you really, and then also them basically telling the government, you give us what we want or we are going to destroy America. Do you really align yourself with that?
Now, gonna go point by point. I'm gonna talk about the riots, and I'm gonna talk about Planned Parenthood. And then what was the last thing you mentioned right after Planned Parenthood?
As far as them being a Marxist movement now. Basically, just say that, a Marxist movement.
Start writing stuff down. Okay. So as far as the riots, which leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement called for riots and called for killings?
Brother, I don't know their names, but I can definitely tell you there's been 4. I can definitely tell you there's one out of New York. There was just another gentleman, okay,
they called for killings and called for riots.
Yes, I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. There was just another one. I just watched a video of a young Black dude, very articulate, calling for murder.
Now, is he a Black Lives Matter?
Correct. And so that's 4 I can account for. 4 I can account for. I do not know their names. So which camera is it? This one.
Yeah.
So audience, do not take that as if it's 100% true, because I cannot provide the source of references.
Right. Because me and Duran, we're gonna link up later and talk about both of these points. Because I'm sure that if he shows me some proof and I show him some proof, like we're all about the truth here and just talking things out in a civil manner. That's right.
No, but go ahead, Dex. It's your time.
The riots, and then Planned Parenthood. Yes, I'm sure everyone knows Planned Parenthood did start off as a racist.
Margaret Sanger. Yes.
Yep.
Democrat.
The purpose was to eliminate Black babies. That was the main purpose of Planned Parenthood.
Correct.
But now Planned Parenthood has become an organization that provides much more than abortions. They provide low-cost STD testing. They provide family planning, because that's where I go for my family planning. That's where I found my doctor.
No. So wait, hold on, because I don't want you to go off on that rabbit trail. That was just one of my points about I wish Black Lives Matter would actually address. No, you can just keep it Black Lives Matter. As far as some of the things that you want to refute, where I said the protests, the violence, attacking whites, and etc.
Right. So again, anytime there's rioting, there's going to be people there who are not for the movement, but just there for an opportunity. Because if you are a downtrodden person and you see, oh, there's some stuff going on, and you're just any, they're not checking invitations at the door. So I can't say that, and we can't say that Black Lives Matter sponsored the riots, but we do know that there's a lot of unrest that was already there and in the country that could have sparked this. Because another thing that I think really was a catalyst to all of this was the quarantine. Because when you have
Okay, no, I agree.
and it goes when you got people not working, you got people getting stir crazy, you have people in the house all day, people are going to be irritable, people are going to be agitated, and things like this are more likely to happen. But yes, I don't condone random killings or riots or
Okay, and or the chance against whites or killing cops, the chance against cops, because I know you've seen it. I know you've seen it, and the thing is though, Dex is I see this movement as counterintuitive and counterproductive, right? And it's going to lead to a race riot. And let me just tell you something. You know, the black conservatives and the rest of the conservatives, that's something that they will not lose, because when you look at the numbers, I mean, it's so one-sided. But the thing is this though, Dex, is that all lives matter. You get what I'm saying? All lives matter, because we're not in old America. You agreed with that earlier. We're not in old America. We are in the new America. And what I want to do is keep the new America alive with all lives matter. Now we know that Black Lives Matter, it was started on a false narrative. It really is. Talking about police brutality. Police brutality is 1% of the problem to the black community. And it can be easily rectified with a cultural shift.
Now, as far as talking about police brutality, the reason, I'm just gonna just say what people usually say when people talk about police brutality. People usually shift to Black Lives Matter and start talking about inner cities and issues going on there, where the issue with police brutality is that when there's gangs, you expect gangs to shoot each other. When there's crime, when there's drug deals, you expect people to die. You expect there to be more crime on top of that. The best example I heard for just how the feelings about police brutality in context is MMA. In MMA, you got two guys that are beating the crap out of each other, or two women that are beating the crap out of each other. And the issue with police brutality is, and it's kind of a loose metaphor, would be if the ref roundhouse kicks one of the guys in the face. The ref is there to keep order, make adjustments when needed with crime, arrest the people that need to be arrested. But if there's something that's not a potential violation or a crime that hasn't been committed, and the excessive use of force that have led to deaths and things like that is the issue. Whereas the police, we are not expecting the police to be shooting people for no reason. We're not expecting police to, obviously mistakes are going to happen, but even if they are mistakes, some mistakes that lead to death, you still need to be held accountable for. And there's laws and there's charges and stuff for that, like with manslaughter, things that can still hold people accountable when a mistake is made and leads to someone dying. And in cases like what happened with George Floyd, the largest case of 2020, no arrests had happened until the rioting had started. And that's where it was very easy for me to see the cause and effect with that specifically, which started the largest riots of the year with George Floyd. So there was an unjust death. The unjust death was not held accountable to for a long period of time. There were peaceful protests, there were petitions, there were tons of things, and it wasn't until the government's money was affected in the tax revenue from the businesses. Until those things were affected, there was no change in that specific case.
Okay. So, oh wow, you said a lot, man. I have to.
I'm sorry.
Dex, yeah. I got no. I gotta, I gotta do it, man. I gotta do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. With police brutality, right? Mm-hmm. The part with your metaphor, you said like the ref, two MMA fighters, they're fighting, and the ref just takes off on one of them, right? Mm-hmm. There's something wrong with that. Because normally when the police, or usually, and I'm gonna say this in all these instances, right? Mm-hmm. When the police is called, they have been called. or the person has been caught doing something wrong, right? That's number one. Okay. So I want to shatter that false narrative. Okay. That this person was just innocent and they were approached by the cop and then they were killed. Okay. No, this is not how all these shootings. Okay. I always look at the common denominator and the facts, right? So cops are called for a reason. The cops are just say questioning, not going to say interrogating, but questioning. Okay. The person for a reason. Now you mentioned George Floyd. And you said nothing was done. The reason why nothing was done is because those people saw the body cam footage from the cops. This is why they hid the body cam footage from the masses. And they went with Chauvin having his knee on his neck. Now, let me just tell you something. As an ex-criminal, I used to try to fight the cops. But when they poured their guns, I was like, whoa, okay, I'm good. I give up. I've had cops put their knee on the back of my neck. Probably, listen, I'm not boasting or anything. I'm somebody that's how bad I used to be. In 1 year, I went to jail 46 times. Out of those 46 times, okay, trying to fight with cops, doing the wrong thing, okay? But, and also too, this is tying into the truth of the matter with blacks being shot. When that cop put his knee on the back of Floyd's neck, it was a legal procedure. It was legal procedure. It was legal. I have had cops put their knee on the back of my neck and I was still able to breathe, right? You have to remember when you look at the body cam footage, this man was on fentanyl. Fentanyl that stops you from breathing. And plus he resisted arrest. And that, my friend, is the common denominator. It is the insubordination, it's the resisting, it's failure to be compliant. 99. Now, there has been some where I've seen dudes just get shot. Okay, there was one where the woman told the dude, grab the gun and put it on the ground. That's what she told him. And as soon as he grabbed it, she shot him. That's one incident where he was being compliant and he was wrongly shot. Okay, now she's being fired and et cetera and all that kind of stuff, right? But the rest of the 99% of these cases, Dex, we have to be honest. We have to tell the truth. Part of the black culture is disrespect the cops, fight the cops. The cop is the enemy. The cops, they just want to kill you, right? We call that hysteria, right? Then they're disrespectful to the cops, trying to fight the cops. Same thing with George Floyd. They put him in a car. He resisted arrest, my brother. He did. He resisted arrest. Same thing with the guy that just got shot in the back. What's his name?
Jacob Blake.
Yeah, Mr. Blake. Shot in the back. Had a blade. He told the cops, I'm gonna go and get this knife out of my car. They were wrestling with him before. When you look at the other video, all I'm saying is this: all these shootings could have been prevented if you are compliant, even if the cop is wrongly questioning you or arresting you. Be compliant. It's not worth dying. And this is what I'm saying. They're not innocent. That's the thing. They keep saying these people were innocent. No, they were not. Arbery, when he was shot, that wasn't an innocent thing. It wasn't. And so when you said that these cops, no one did anything, is because of the body cam footage. The body cam footage showed that George Floyd was resisting arrest. Those are the facts.
So
no, go ahead.
Ahmaud Arbery wasn't shot by the police, by the way.
No. I know that. I'm just using him as instance. He was doing the wrong thing, and that's what attracted attention to him. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to George Floyd, and I'm gonna come back to Ahmaud Arbery, because Ahmaud Arbery wasn't breaking the law.
You and I see there you already know what you're gonna say. Yeah, go ahead. You and I talked about this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me see. So with George Floyd, though he had fentanyl in his system, the neck restraint that was used was already, and the police department just completely threw Derek Chauvin under the bus. Like the actual statements from the police department, they were like, oh no, we didn't authorize that. Nope, that's not in our use of force. No neck, nothing. Nope. He killed them. So the police department did not have Derek Chauvin's back. They came out and said that the neck restraint was not a part of their policy and procedure. So he used an unwarranted, out of policy neck restraint, and due to his negligence, a man died. Now,
true.
I
say because of the negligence, but I'm not going to say he killed him. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, you can negligently kill someone.
No. Go ahead.
That's manslaughter. That's manslaughter. You can negligently kill someone. So Derek Chauvin caused the death of George Floyd, and that's negligently you can cause death. Negligently you can commit a crime. So that in the case of George Floyd, and yes, George Floyd, he was being questioned about they were there for a counterfeit bill. So the
Correct.
number one duty whenever there's a police altercation is the preservation of life. And that's not just the preservation of life in the officer, that's the preservation of life of everyone involved. And I don't want to say that that's in every police department's policy, but I do know the ones I'm familiar with here in South Texas. The preservation of life is the number one priority when having any type of questioning during any type of arrest or detaining process. Is the preservation of life is first and foremost for the suspect or the person they're talking to and themselves. So, due to the negligent actions of that officer, if they do have that sort of policy where they put preservation of life for everyone involved to the forefront, then that's a break in policy. Someone died, that's illegal, and then that man is held accountable. I don't know about the other three because, again, it differs from state to state.
Mhm.
I know in Alabama and in Texas, if you're there when the crime's committed and you don't do anything to stop it, that's on you too. I'm not sure about how that state's laws work in that regard.
Yeah.
With Ahmaud Arbery, let me quick question: what crime do you believe that Ahmaud Arbery committed?
So, my personal opinion is this, right?
Mhm.
Now, from listening to, because we see, here's the thing: you and I already have debated this.
Yeah, yeah. It's for the people. It's for the people.
And so, oh my goodness, man, my phone, dude. So you and I have already debated this, right?
Mhm.
Here's the thing: is that when he went to the property,
Mhm.
now you say it's a different code. I have a more credible source. It's Brandon Tatum that says there's a different code from yours, okay?
Mhm.
That he did violate the code, the stature code or whatever it is by walking on the premises, walking into the property, right? Looking around, walking around. But the thing is, though, they also said too, though, is that there has been thefts in the neighborhood before where he was actually seen, right? So here's the thing where I would say if you're doing the right thing, right, the police do not come to you. They always come to you if someone called you or you're doing the wrong thing. Those are the two things, right? But now with Arbery, when they told him to stop, he ran. Why? Because the thing is, we know when you run from a citizen, you know you're doing something wrong.
So,
but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So
I want your take on it.
So the situation with Ahmaud Arbery had zero to do with the police. There were no police present when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered. In that state, you need to, in order to perform a citizen's arrest, which is legal in that state, you need to witness a crime being committed.
Mm-hmm.
And the McMichaels, both of them have already given their statements, and it's the information's out there that they did not witness a crime being committed, and they were the ones that said that there had been thefts previously. They don't know who it was, but they just went after him anyways. So the code that you were talking about, I assume that you were talking about trespassing.
Correct.
So in order for a trespass, and I know it sounds a little funky, unless for there to be an illegal trespass, the property owner or the person in control of the property needs to make it known that you are not allowed to be there. So as we saw, it was an open construction from the cameras inside. They had the wooden slats up.
I agree with you on that.
There weren't any fixtures, there weren't
open
any
construction. Yeah.
So if there was a not a no trespassing sign or a do not come in sign, if there is no one there, it was not illegal for him to be there until the property owner makes it known, hey, this person or no one is allowed to be here unless it's me or someone that I sent. So that has to be known for it to be an illegal trespass. So him walking into the structure, then walking out of the structure, at that point, no crime had been committed. Now, when he started running down the street, two men middle of the street, weapons. Regardless of who it is, I'm not letting these people touch me. That's me. But as far as from a legal standpoint, I believe they were charged with kidnapping. Because whenever you impede a free citizen, not a criminal, whenever you impede a free citizen from trying to go somewhere, that's kidnapping. If they're like, oh, I'm gonna go over here, and they're like, no, you can't, and they're forcibly keeping you there or
Right.
using a threat to keep you there, that is kidnapping, which I
Right.
believe they were charged with.
Yeah.
So
Now,
that
I don't know if they're
is,
charged with that, but I'm just saying, no, I agree with what
sure.
you're saying, basically, as far as that being a law. Yeah.
Mhm. So the case with Ahmaud Arbery doesn't, again, it has nothing to do with the police.
Correct.
Laws that favor the police and help the police out do not apply in that situation at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but I was just using, remember though, the context where I was just using Arbery. If you're doing the right thing, right?
Mhm.
Police don't come to you. So you really believe that police brutality is a problem?
Yes. So, and then just to expand a little bit more, I just want to make the claim and the basis that just because you commit a crime, especially nonviolent crimes, does not warrant your death.
Correct.
So that's a narrative that someone's past actions, like, oh, he had a warrant, or oh, he had this, or oh, he had that, so it's okay that he died, basically, is what people try
No,
to get at. It's like, no, it's not
no,
okay that he died. There
no.
were things that person could have done differently, but the trained individual who is called to that situation to render order to that situation should be held at a higher standard than a standard citizen, which is
True.
mhm.
That is true. That is true.
So the
That is true.
system, the system, the way it's set up with the laws is that if an officer reasonably fears for their life, they have the authority to use deadly force. And I believe that goes back to police training, because I've undergone some of the same training as our local police here. And it is really some put the fear of God in you type of stuff. It
Gotcha.
doesn't put you in a frame of mind to be able to help. It's more of a frame of mind of everyone is out to get you, which keeps the officer safe, but doesn't necessarily lend itself to keep the community safe. And since then, that particular training here has been removed. It has been changed. It has been edited because we were seeing the negative effects of that. And it would be the veteran officers, a lot of the specialized officers we have specialized community officers that receive additional training that you would think that some of the standard officers would also receive. So it's a multifaceted issue, and it's not necessarily the 100% fault of the person who did the killing, but also what they were basically directed and told to do. So if you're trained to be a certain way, trained to do a certain thing when certain things happen, that may be wrong, but are you going to, in high stress situations, we revert to what we know. So like if you're a criminal and you're used to running, you revert to what you know in high stress situation, you're gonna run. If you're an officer who's been trained, hey, get out of there by any means necessary. If they're reaching, they're not looking to see what it's going to be. They're not looking to see, oh, is it a hairbrush? Is it a knife? Is it a phone? What is it? No, they're discharging the weapon and they're getting out of there, which isn't necessarily right, but it is also a product of what they were taught.
Okay. Gotcha. So for time's sake, yeah, let's
Mhm.
so
Oh,
this
my
is,
water. Oops.
yeah, this is what a lot of people this is the hot topic.
Oh,
Push button
all
topic.
right. All right.
Dex, is
Mhm.
Donald Trump a racist to you? Yes or
Oh
no?
man.
And if it's a yes, why?
Ugh. My genuine belief is that Donald Trump is not an active racist, but what I do believe that he is one of the most ignorant people on the face of the earth.
Okay.
So again, ignorant people do racist things, but being ignorant doesn't necessarily make you a racist.
Okay, I've never heard it said like that. That's interesting. You know what? You're really good. You're really good at walking that tightrope, man. I gotta give you that. I gotta give you that.
Because it's low hanging fruit, right? It's like, okay, how can this guy talk like this? Like you were talking about um like you were talking about Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden calling, essentially black people, even though they didn't say it outright, but you said that they were pretty much calling black people super predators.
Well, Clinton did it outright. Joe Biden.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with Trump, you could say the same. He didn't say it outright, but when he was talking about illegal immigrants and them being rapists and murderers and things like that, and just the things that he does, like mimicking and making fun of disabled people, putting his hand up here and making sounds, things of that nature.
Okay, so you just more don't like him basically in the way he does things, but you don't think he's a racist though.
See, but I don't think he's an active racist, but I think his ignorance lends himself to do racist things, support actual racists.
Okay.
Because it's like a sympathy empathy thing. If you don't understand somebody, how can you sympathize with that person? How can you empathize with that person? If you don't understand what someone is going through, if you don't understand someone's feelings, it's about communication. If you don't understand somebody as a person, it's difficult for you to put yourself in that person's shoes. And from a policymaker standpoint, if you can't put yourself in the mind of a disenfranchised person, or imagine or talk to somebody and have an open mind about talking to somebody whose people have been oppressed, disenfranchised, things like that, it might be difficult for you to empathize and sympathize with that situation. It's like,
Dex, I don't like the reverse racism against my president. Here's the thing. He has said a lot of the same things that Obama has said, other presidents have said, and etc. And yet he's automatically labeled a racist because he's a white dude. I don't like that. I don't like any form of racism. I don't care if it's coming from the president or even if it's a cockroach and a cockroach is racist. I don't like that cockroach. But it's just the thing is that you have to be honest, Dex. A lot of people, man, just call him a racist because he's white. And because he's a white dude that said something that's not favorable.
I got to push back on that because, again, there's a lot of people that I know that called Donald Trump a racist also called Obama a coon and an Uncle Tom. For me, it's the issue that is being talked about. Like, if you're a member of the disabled community, how do you feel when somebody does this and they start making noises, talking about a disabled person?
Wait, hold on. I'm not laughing at the act. Okay. I'm just saying, I agree with you on that part. That wasn't the best thing for him to do, but I just don't see that as being racist.
And again, it's not
insensitive.
But not again, we're used, and again, everybody's used to the hardcore racism, being called the N-word. I've been called out of my name several times in my life. And it's like I said in the beginning, it's become a lot more nuanced now. So is it a joke? Is it? No one can say. So it's like if somebody, like you said, I'm teetering that line. If somebody is teetering that line, you got to make a judgment call. I'm like, all right, is he talking about all of us? Or is it just this, instance?
But
and that's the nuance of America that we live in.
That same standard wasn't applied to Obama, though. Where Obama can say what he even called Kanye West a jackass. No one called him a racist because he's black. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. But Donald Trump can say something about African American, all of a sudden he's racist. I'm just like, look. Here's the thing. How come we can't just take what was actually said, right? Mm-hmm. For what was actually said? Why does a person have to be automatically labeled a racist because they say something that's unfavorable? That's what I'm trying to get.
Again, I don't agree with anybody just being plain labeled a racist. But when you do certain things and act a certain way, can you be mad when people call you a certain things? Like you were just saying with criminals. If you just see somebody run, you're like, oh, they did something bad.
No. That is not.
Oh, sorry. They did something they likely didn't do. They were doing something they weren't supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
So again, when you don't know somebody intimately, all you have is to go by what they say.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, Dex. Why is the automatic default that he's a racist?
I don't
I'm
know.
telling you,
That's not my default, so I don't know.
that's messed up, though, Dex. That's messed up, though, bro. That kills dialogue.
Mhm.
That kills dialogue. That's just I've been called a white supremacist because I'm a conservative. Do I look white to you?
No, but you can be a
I've been
white.
called a Nazi.
You can be a white.
Do I look German?
Nazi.
I mean, I'm saying, do I look Nazi to you? I mean, like, are you kidding me? I mean, come on, bro. Like, for real, man. I mean, I'm just like,
and again,
come on, man.
And again, when people get emotional on the left and the right, because like the issues we just talked about, there are a lot of people that know about these issues, but don't know how to organize it, don't know what kind of conclusions to derive. So they're either going to just make one decision or make another decision, and that's how most of the country works. Because most of the country doesn't work like this.
You're slowly moving to the right, though. The more that I talk to you,
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yep.
I don't see it. I don't.
Okay, so
there's many other social issues. I would say I would be
a centrist.
I'm socially liberal, but I'm economically conservative. But when you put money versus people, I gotta go with people. So that's why I'm more center left. So I'm conservative.
See, that's messed up. That's messed up. You just sit up there and just, oh my goodness, created that dichotomy. Oh, you got to care about, like, conservatives don't care about people.
For me,
come on.
Well, again, okay, like with what's going on in the Senate, and the House today with the stimulus bill.
That's both sides.
Well, yeah, it's both sides. The Democrats want $3.5 trillion, and I think the skinny bill that the Republicans did was like $700 billion, like the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
And I was like, come on, 700 billion versus 3.5. And at least, and again, if you have to make a hard choice, it's like, all right, we need to help people.
Right.
So it's like, you don't want to start at the bottom and go up. Let's trim it down.
No, I'm glad you referred to that. That's definitely a bipartisan issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's definitely not left or right. It's definitely not conservative Democrat.
So
Dex.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say, when I said, like, when you put money against people, in that specific instance that everybody's living in and everybody's going to be affected by today, do I want to save money and possibly leave somebody out, or there's going to be some frivolous spending, but at least everybody will be covered? And I'm like, well, I would like to meet in the middle, but if we have to make a hard choice today, I don't want to, save money at the expense of people.
Of course, I'm gonna want to go with the people getting paid. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. This is what I'm gonna say. That's a bipartisan issue.
Right.
But here's the thing, though. So, Dex, here's the final question, because my assistant is on the way here. Dude, my phone's been blowing up, brother. As you can just see how this is just a small example of how busy I am every day. And so, the final question, Dex.
Mm-hmm.
America, future of America. What do you see?
I say it's good. Nothing's gonna break this country anytime soon. That's my wholehearted opinion. No matter what happens in the White House, no matter what happens in the Senate, America just we all live here for a reason. America just has a way of just trudging along. People are going to be happy. People are going to die. People are going to be poor. People are going to be rich. We're going to see, in a capitalist society, that's what we signed up for with capitalism. There's going to be some really, really well-to-do people, and there's going to be some people slumming it. And I believe we're just going to make it through. Like we always have, like we always will. We're going to make it through.
I'm shocked. To be honest with you. Like, I had you pegged. I thought you was going to be like, initially, these white supremacists and all this kind of stuff. We got to get them all and blah, blah, blah. But no. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. I'm just joking a little bit. But no, so I agree with you. I'm fully optimistic about the future of America. I believe that we are going to come back as a strong, solid country, but a lot of people are going to have to be removed from their positions.
Yeah.
In order for that to happen.
Yep.
And so
the number one thing that everybody can always agree on every election cycle is change. No matter what, right. No matter what side of the spectrum you're on, everybody wants change.
That's true. My man, that's true. Dex, this this dialogue, I have to tell you, if this is what we can do, I hope the rest of the country can learn to do this.
Yeah, and at least on some level of just because it's really easy. It's real easy to do stuff behind the keyboard. It's real easy to fire off a Trump's or Drumpf, libtard, Republican, Uncle Tom. It's real easy to fire that off in the comment section.
Exactly.
But when you sit down and talk to people, people are a lot more reasonable than everyone wants to give them credit for.
My man, and it's not all so polarized and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Absolutely, my man, I agree with you. Dex, I just have to say, man, it was definitely a pleasure to have you on, and I would definitely like to have you on again in the future here, man. You know, with more panelists, as I should say, so that way that we can get more opinions. Because my ultimate goal at the end of the day is I want to bring my country together in truth and love. Okay. And of course, I'm a hardcore conservative. So of course I want you to come over to the right. Duh. I mean, I don't keep that a secret. Of course, I don't keep that as a secret. Yep. But Dex, yeah, my man, I just want to say, man, pleasure to have you, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the invite.
Okay, my man. You take it easy. All right, brother.
Yes, sir.
My man.